You're listening to the audio version of the Geek Apocalypse podcast, brought by yours truly, Mr. Resident Geek, Stephen Hesse. We are available on iTunes, as well on www.geekapocalypse.com. Broadcast live and exclusively from Newcastle, England, in good old UK. We also have a YouTube account, which is www.youtube.com/geekapocalypse, where we will be uploading all the videos from our podcast, as well as from Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, we are also just starting a Twitch account, which you can find at www.twitch.tv/geekapocalypse, where you can follow us to find out all the streaming we will be doing on said site. Also, if you want to know everything that we're absolutely up to, you can follow us on Twitter, which is @geek_apocalypse. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy being a geek. Everybody dance now, everybody dance now. Yeah, that's it. It is the house party and general geekiness and dancing until you drop dead. That is the Geek Apocalypse podcast. No, don't drop dead. I don't know why I said that. You don't want you to drop dead. Please stick with us. Not just because, obviously we want you to listen, but you are welcome. You're all welcome in the general weirdness that is the Geek Apocalypse podcast. Thank you so much if you're tuning in for the first time. You're more than welcome. I am your host, Mr. Stephen Hesse, and it is Tabletopday bonus episode. That's right. We went to our board game club that we are all members of, everyone who contributes to this, called Newcastle Gamers at Christchurch Hall in Newcastle, England, and I brought my equipment along and I thought, let's talk to some like-minded people who love games. And Tabletopday, for those that don't know, Will and Felicia, who created Tabletop on YouTube, a great board game show, highly recommend you check it out. And they created a holiday, which is in its 3rd year, so we celebrated that by playing games all day, and it was immense, and I tweeted about it the whole day, and it was great. Had an awesome time. So I thought I'd interview some of my friends. So we interviewed Michael Bottrell from C. Jackson Games, who talked about his love of games and how Tabletop helped him and I get more involved in board games again, because we kind of fell out of it at university. So that was awesome. We also talked to my good friends Drew and Erin separately about their YouTube stuff, Drew and Erin Let's Plays, as well as obviously about board games. Talked to my good mate Kyle, who I regularly play games with, who talked about his Let's Plays and various other things. So all the links I'm mentioning will be in the description, so please have a look. And also Nicholas Lloyd, who is a good friend of mine from Newcastle Gamers, who talks about all the uploads he does. Ridiculously fun videos he does. He's been doing it for quite a while, and he's really awesome, so please do check out all the stuff that I mentioned, and thank you so much to everyone for being involved in said show. It was really fun. But yeah, I should also quickly mention thank you so much to everyone who commented on episode 72. These are all really kind for all the brilliant comments with Ryan Day, and I highly recommend, although it's a really long podcast, please do stick with it. It's a really good podcast, and Ryan's a great guest. Can't wait to see him in London in a month's time at the convention there to say hello to him properly. You can also find the video version of that on our YouTube channel. But without further ado, here's episode 73, Tabletopday. Yay! We're friends, we're enemies, we're mates. Yes, we are. But yeah, hello everybody, we're here at Tabletopday, it's Geek Apocalypse and Stephen Hesse, and we're here at Newcastle Gamers, and we're having an awesome time, aren't we, Michael?
We are having a brilliant time.
So, in terms of what we've been playing, I played quite a few games with you today, so
yeah.
We played Loads of Waterdeep.
We did, yes.
Do you actually enjoy it? I mean, I know you got a copy of Loads of Waterdeep, are you a fan of that?
I'm a big fan of Loads of Waterdeep. I mean, it's an excellent worker placement game.
Yeah.
Really good.
How long you had your copy? Did you get it when it first came out, or?
No, we got it last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Got it last summer. I've been playing it on the app since that came out. So
I mean, I could mention my epic 1-point win, but I'm not that kind of person,
Michael.
That
was actually really impressive. I think Drew was convinced he was winning until the very last
you
second.
could tell, wasn't he? He was doing a little bit of trash talking.
And then you just snuck over the line.
And I was really I really quietly was going, no, I think it's going to be close, Drew. And I had calculated in your head, he said 24 points, and I went, okay. And then I got that 10 points at the end with that building. Getting rid of resources was pretty cool.
I think it was when you stole that building off him.
That was
because everybody was using it.
Because not only did it take 6 points off him for being the builder, but it took. Since I got it from round 3, everybody used it once, which is 3 points a round. So what's that? 21-point swing, literally the difference between the game. So I think that was like the play that changed the thing.
Definitely.
But I have to say, although like you were struggling to kind of get some quests and to complete some quests, the way you played your Lord, I thought you did it the right way, because getting 36 points at the end is a lot in Lord. You just struggled to keep up with the regular stuff.
It was just trying to get those warfare quests in, but they got a bit sparse towards the end, so I didn't quite get as many as I wanted.
Yeah, cool. So I wanted to chat to you because obviously I know we talked about this the other day, but obviously it'll be saved this time, hopefully.
Yes.
So obviously to reiterate, obviously I know because I know you fairly well, but for the benefit of people listening, because the idea is we want to ask people about how they got into tabletop gaming. Do you remember your first sort of experience doing that? I mean, usually it's kind of like family games and Monopoly and Screaming at Christmas and.
Actually, to be honest, my family really didn't play Monopoly. We had a copy, but we didn't really play together. My parents weren't big on games. I think we played between. I've got 3 brothers and sisters, so we played between ourselves the odd game, Snakes and Ladders. But I think I got into it because I was given. I can't remember. I'm not sure which one it was. Space Crusade or Hero Quest.
Hero Quest is awesome.
Yeah, I've still got my copy.
You mentioned this the other day. What a great game.
And it kind of was great, and it ended up me getting a couple of copies of White Dwarf. Ended up in Games Workshop in Ipswich. And I went in that way, and then that sort of sidewayed at school through into things like we did Car Wars arenas when I was at middle school, which was really fun.
We were talking about that and how awesome Car Wars, because it's a Steve Jackson game, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Didn't it? Are they? I think you were the one that told me. Weren't they planning on re-releasing that? Or
They've re-released the 4th edition.
Yeah.
But every time they've had 2 printings so far, and it gets sold out straight away. So they are doing another one for the later on in the year. But and then part of the over Kickstarter, one of the stretch goals was to make them work on a new edition of Car Wars, which will eventually hit Kickstarter at some point. They're playtesting it at the minute.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the things we should mention, because obviously we haven't said this in this interview, is that you obviously you demo Steve Jackson games. So you know a lot about Steve Jackson games.
Man in Black was Steve Jackson games.
I mean, it's great. I really want to kind of you to tell that story you told me the other day about. I mean, obviously we can talk about the family influence that board games have on you, because I know you mentioned that, and it was a really sweet story. But I kind of wanted to ask you, because I don't think I asked you the last time, was how play testing games and demoing them and teaching people how to play stuff. What does that mean to you when you do that? I mean, and what kind of reaction do you get? What would you say overall?
Largely a positive reaction. It's really nice to sort of teach someone a game. I mean, and them to actually pick it up and really enjoy it. It's actually really quite fun. Just trying to think of a specific example. We've done. I know I can think of one definite example. It's not from me, but from Lindsay. She was. We were at the Woodhorn Museum up in Ashington. They have one of their big science fiction invasion type of thing with some Daleks and stuff. We're in a room with like 7 Daleks. It was quite intimidating.
Nice. That sounds like a Friday night.
It was interesting. And she was playing Once Upon a Time with a teacher, who then went and said, right, you know what, I'm going to buy this for the kids at school, because it's excellent, because she was an English teacher. It'd be excellent for teaching them how to develop the story themselves.
Because you were telling me the other day about wasn't it Carcassonne you were saying was done by a teacher? Was it Carcassonne?
Yeah, Carcassonne was made by a teacher.
Yeah, as an idea, he said he was teaching how to. What was it? Was the idea of what was he trying to teach with it? And it was. You said to me that you used them in classes, didn't you?
That's what I've read. He used it in classes. He's a religious education teacher. So
probably to do. A lot of these are to do with maths, I imagine. It's probably to help calculate, problem solving.
Definitely.
In essence, it's a jigsaw. I don't even say thought of that. It's a jigsaw in terms of putting stuff together that matches. So.
But it's managing your resources as well. Because you've only got so many meeples. And it's really easy to sort of use them up straight away. So
the invention of the meeples, legends of the gaming world.
Indeed,
But so in terms of Tabletop Day, like what does Tabletop Day mean to you?
I think Tabletop Day is really sort of, for a long time, our board games, the hobby games, have been sort of hidden away at the back of a store. We play them in our own little clubs. It's really, I suppose, been, for a long time, it was sort of almost like a closed hobby. It was, you had to be in the know. But Tabletop Day really does sort of open it up. It sort of like allows us to wear what we enjoy very openly and sort of say, hey, this is what we love, and share it with other people. I remember last year the Tabletop Day. It was Erin's first time she came here. It was Tabletop Day last year. So that was fun.
That sounds right.
Sat and played Munchkin with her. And it was an amazing sort of. It was absolutely amazing.
I said this. I did a blog earlier. I did a video blog earlier today, and I released it before I got here. And I said a very similar point to that. As I just was like, thank you, Tabletop Day. I know me and you, something me and you share. With Tabletop, the actual series is that it got us involved in games again, or at least
it helped rekindle it.
That's the right way. Rekindle. Remotivate us into finding people with a like-minded approach to it, and also, like as you pointed out, and I think that's the really relevant point in all this, is you've summed it up brilliantly, is this idea of to be comfortable in declaring what stuff you love and being in an environment where that's okay and accepted.
And it opens it up to so many more people. This morning on my way here, I popped into Forbidden Planet. I was in the basement there, and they had some guys playing with some customers who'd never played games before. They were playing King of Tokyo, and I was just sort of browsing the games, and they were like, this is really great fun. I can have fun with the kids with this. It's sort of like, that's the point.
And I mean, we've got a great example. Literally, just before we did this, started recording, we just finished a game of Alhambra, and I literally took 30 seconds to organise. Literally, one was looking at it, and you went, I like Alhambra, and I'm like, I like Alhambra too. I think I'll. Do you want a game? And then all of a sudden it was 4, which became 6 because we sat down with Alhambra and they went, would you mind if we join? I'm like, of course. And then that's it. It's sort of
repeat players there who hadn't played it before.
And I think a good example of that has to be that one of the girls who was new won.
Jen took that game very easily. Well, that's the lovely thing about a lot of European games. They've got a really simple scoring system that keeps everybody in it right until the last minute. Unlike Monopoly, where you play a couple of rounds, then it's like
right until the end of the misery.
It is.
It's just delaying the inevitable, basically. Delaying tactics which is, and it just becomes like a depressed way of playing games, really.
Oh, I know. My sister-in-law loves it, and you just have to humour her sometimes and play it, but it's like, I just want to.
Do you ever get a compromise the other end? Does she play stuff that you want to play, or?
Oh God, yes. I've introduced her to proper games. She's got herself a nice little collection now. She's still on the mostly Munchkin base.
Hasbro, I would just like to say, Geek Apocalypse does not condone what Michael said. We love you, although that's complete. Well, it's a complete lie, because I've said plenty of times on this podcast that I don't like Monopoly stuff. Personal opinion.
Mind you, Hasbro are sponsoring the NSPCC's big board game thing. So
I know they have they certainly have the right way of dealing with things, and that's.
And obviously they are the publishers of Lords of Waterdeep in a roundabout way.
But I'm all for it if they're financing games that I enjoy. That's fine. But I mean, who am I to say that when get a game as big as that, of course they're going to sell something like that and make a lot of money out of it, and because it's an institution, really. I mean, everybody knows that game. You know, when board games or card games ends up, you can buy it in a supermarket. You kind of know it's the norm. You know that when someone walks in a supermarket and go, I want to fancy buying a game of Monopoly, and then you realise that's that easy to do. You know. Yeah,
I mean, I'll get that. I mean, you can get a lot of the games you like are being sold in bookshops. Blackwell's Waterstones are stocking them, so I think it's only a matter of time until we see them in places like Tesco's and Asda.
Yeah.
Inevitable, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely inevitable. Yeah.
Especially some of the more casual games.
But yeah, we touched on you and your family and saying how important it is board games and card games in your aspect of your life. Yeah. You know, you told it beautifully to me the other day, and I just wanted you to reiterate it and basically say, how does board games help with your relationship and stuff, with your family and obviously Lindsay and stuff?
It kind of gives us something to do that's not sitting in front of the television or talking or sitting in the same room reading the phones or reading a book or something. It brings you to. It really brings people together to do something common purpose. And it doesn't matter whether you're playing a game in which you're cooperating, which are always good for bringing people together and working together, problem solving together, which is excellent. I tell you, in a married relationship, you need to find some way to work out those problems. And even when you're playing a competitive game like Carcassonne, in which I can get very, very competitive, it's good because it sort of keeps. It really does sort of give you a link to someone else when you play together.
Creatively as well, a creative environment.
And it's not like you're sitting there being all silent with things. You're talking, whether it be trash talking,
or dialogue,
or saying, I'm gonna take you down with my farmer, right? or you're discussing, right? I think you need to go to Los Angeles, and then
I'm going to take this meeple off this road.
So it's a thing which really needs people to talk to each other, and I think that it brings families closer together because they're spending time together, rather than
quality time.
Rather than what I find these days is many people are in the same place but not necessarily doing the same thing or being together.
It's almost like they do what the bare necessity of being together, so then they can spend most of the time apart. Like besides if tea's made, they'll eat food separately and then do separate activities like play on the iPad, play on the computer, and none of it's interacting with each other. And
exactly.
And
it's all too easy to get stuck in sitting on the sofa looking at each other's phones or whatever.
Be self-involved, self-absorbing,
But games really do sort of force you to do that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I suppose in the place that we're currently recording, where Newcastle Game Match is taking place, one of the things you notice if you look around all the tables now, which we can see in the place that we're recording, is that you can't play a board game or a card game without being nice to the other person, and that's really the underlying key about it. They don't come back if you're not nice to them.
There's definitely some trash talking going on.
Yeah, this is like we're doing, it's like we're doing the simulcast or something, the StarCraft commentators or something, where we're like some sort of gaming event going. Now we have Richard, who is playing a card. He's playing a card of. What is actually? Do you have any idea what your wife's playing right now? Because we can see.
Spell Epic Spell Wars.
All right. I don't know what it is.
Spell Wars is getting Drago on there, Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah, this is great. We just finished the game at Alhambra.
Zombicides over there, I think we're getting out Dead of Winter. Another Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica ended about half an hour ago.
That was going on forever.
I know, but it's a long game. I think that's the most game in the podcast in my social life. That's the game I most argue about, because some people absolutely adore it and I just don't get it. But as we explained, it's like, fine if you don't get something. It's not for you.
I played a game today which I wasn't really all that. Which I backed on Kickstarter, Dragon Slayer, which I have to say is a bit so-so.
That was so funny. We have to tell that story.
It was just an add-on to.
This is how Michael sells a game. Michael and Lindsay's wife, sits down for the game and he goes, "Oh, let's play this Dragon Slayer," and they both, about 5 minutes into explaining this game, go, I don't even want to play this anymore, and they were all like persevering through the rules. But once like we figured out what it was like, to me it was like it was like a more sort of a different variant of like a zombie dice or something. It's just about
definitely.
the look of the dice and how far you take it.
Yeah, it was okay, but
I can imagine that's like a little quite cheapish game. It was probably about a tenner or something.
I think it was about. Well, it was an add-on to not the resistance expansions, coup reformation.
Oh yeah, I noticed it was in a coup box. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. It was from Indie Balls and Carls, and I think it was about the equivalent of £3.
Yeah.
So I'm not feeling robbed, but
anyway,
I don't think I would have bought it if I'd known.
Yeah. But anyway, whoever makes that game, we are not in any way dissing you. We just personal opinion. It's a good little filler game.
It's definitely a filler game, and I might play it again a few more times.
Yeah. I mean, once it got going, it was one of the things was just figuring out what when to use the dice and not, and when.
I do like the challenge aspect.
Yeah,
it's actually quite.
I was going to say that's the key, I think, discernible difference between that and zombie dice. Because zombie dice is very passive; you can't do anything while the player's taking the turn. Yeah, so it's quite good that they had a challenge element in. But anyway, I'll not keep you any longer. I want to go play some games. But thank you so much for talking to us, Michael, and. On behalf of me, your good mate,
yes.
Happy Tabletopday.
Happy Tabletopday.
Thanks, man. I'll speak to you soon.
In the first full day I've been to, maybe?
Yeah.
No, I can't have been. Maybe.
Anyway, yeah. So we just started recording, because I'm here with my good mate, Erin. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm very happy to not be at work. So
She got a result.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It was very well timed. I was very, very upset to be missing out on Tabletop Day, but in fact I got to stay and play loads of games.
You run into a metro? I
was literally running to the metro to go to work. My boss rang and said, we're actually really quiet today, do you want to stay at home? I was only going
I'm good, thanks.
I was like, that's actually the most fortuitous timing in the world, and I've been grinning like an idiot since then.
It's funny because we were talking just as I started to record and realised we should actually mention this on the podcast, because I just said I was intrigued because Michael said in the interview that I think he said Erin's first time here, which I think he just misspoke and saying it was last year's Tabletop Day, and I'm like, actually I've met you in Tabletop, like I've met you, I've played games with you at Game As way before then. I think he just meant that was the first time he played with you.
I think that might have been the first time I met Michael, because Michael brought down loads of Munchkin promos.
Yeah, he said he played Munchkin with them.
I was intensely excited to play Munchkin, because I've got quite a lot of Munchkin cards, and I think Michael said I've got the most Munchkin cards anyone he knows after himself. Yeah. Which he's always been impressed by.
But he gets them. He gives them to me when you get doubles.
I think I'd only been to a handful of gamers before then.
Yeah.
But the first, if you're asking sort of when my first sort of tabletop games that I played, that was a couple of years ago.
Here or just in general?
Not here, but in general.
Oh, really?
First games I played, I went to one of my friends who lives up in Gosford, or he lived in Gosford at the time, up to his house to get very, very drunk and play some games. We broke out Munchkin, first time we played it. Absolutely mad, especially when you're drunk and you haven't got a clue what's going on. I had just the best beginner's luck and just kicked everyone's ass.
All the best gear.
But everyone was really nice to me, which is probably why they kept giving me the charity cards, and I kept stockpiling them, going,
Yeah, you can get very powerful with the charity cards.
And then we played a load of Settlers of Catan. Because we're all drunk, we all thought that having wood for sheep was the funniest thing in the world.
That was like the perfect joke for my type of podcast. That's brilliant.
It's just that joke never gets old.
I've got loads of wood for sheep. That's actually really funny. It's because it's been such a the only Catan version I have is Star Trek Catan, so that never comes up. But obviously, old school Catan's very funny. It is. It's just the very premise, not just that very, very funny joke, but just the stuff you're trading for seems so utterly bizarre. Like, I'm trading clay for wheat, and it's like, who would do such a thing? So I guess it's just an archaic way of looking at it, I suppose. I mean, like,
obviously, because I don't know if you read the email to Newcastle Game Month, but Cameron was like saying, bring like in the what Will Wheaton calls the infection vector games to encourage people to play the games.
I am awful, one, at reading emails, and two, at actually watching Will Wheaton. I do watch it occasionally. I love Will Wheaton because I'm a massive Star Trek nerd rather than anything.
And we are not.
What is these infection vector games?
He basically said it's like if you go on Board Game Geek, which I know you know about.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
It's like and obviously it's kind of like being universally sort of like this makes sense. It's like the top games of the people to get people into more renowned games like Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride, Dixit, all these sort of ones that are Munchkins, I don't know the whole list, but it's like it's obvious ones to you and I who play regularly. But the reason I bring that up is like, are you based on the fact that Tabletopday is meant to be to get more gamers to play and all that kind of thing? Are you happy playing them games and encouraging people to get more involved in the hobby?
I'm more than happy to. Yeah, I mean, one of sort of my absolute favourite games. I think it's one of the best starter games to get into. Very small game, Love Lab.
Yeah.
I personally think
I think that is on the top 10.
Perfect games that anyone's created. It's so ridiculously simple, but there's so much strategy and thinking involved in it.
When you say to someone 16 cards,
16 card deck,
16 cards, and it's just like
a round can take anywhere from a couple of seconds to maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good game, fast game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, so was it Munchkin the first thing that? I mean, obviously that was, you just said it was Munchkin was the first thing that got you involved. But what would you say in your eyes is like the game that kind of got you really thinking, I want to do this as a hobby? Because you play probably even more than I do. So
I do play an awful lot of games. I don't even know how that started. I sort of through a friend of a friend. Brother kind of thing. I knew that there were sort of games on every week at local comic book shop Travelling Man, and I started just turning up there. It meant at the time I was sort of unemployed or casually employed. It gave me something to do, get out of the house for a few hours and meet some new people. I don't think there was any one particular game that probably hooked me.
I guess it's the same for me, to be honest.
Just meeting lots of people who were, like myself, really laid back, weren't overly competitive about anything, just wanted to relax and enjoy, thinking sports.
It's funny you say that because Munchkin was the first game really that I played from this particular area, and it was like I've probably played that I'd say once a month, if that, and now and then.
I haven't played Munchkin for months at a time, but I found that now that I've got loads and loads of Munchkin cards, a game can take anywhere up to 3 or 4 hours. Which is insane. It's not how Munchkin's meant to work.
And also when Michael just said to me that they're going to bring a Judge Dredd expansion to Apocalypse, did you hear that?
No. Michael's been withholding information.
I know, we're going to beat Michael after this interview.
He's got to know some more gossip.
He knows everything. Like, it's ridiculous. So just even Steve Jackson related. It's like, Michael, we heard this. Not true. It's pretty awesome. But I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast here while we're doing Tabletopday is to kind of say to people who, because I do get people, obviously Geek Fest for me kind of started this idea of people saying, what kind of board games should I play and all this kind of stuff. And like, from your perspective, and a nice way to sort of end me talking to you, because obviously I talk to you all the time, is what do you think the best part about Tabletopday is, and from your perspective of the influence it has and everything like that?
I like the idea that it creates its own little community. It's been such a nice experience being able to go out and meet lots of new people, swap stories, play games. Everyone I've met so far through board gaming, whether that's at small clubs, at big day events like this, or say down at the UK Board Games Expo where we went last year. Everyone I've met is so enthusiastic and excited about board games. Everyone is friendly, no one's...
It's so cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool that, like, the way I always phrase it to people is that, there was a girl who works on the radio show that I'm part of now, and she asked me about Cards Against Humanity, and she said, like, what's the deal with it? Because I hear it all the time, and my friends play it, and I go, I can only explain it, like, because obviously it's a bad card, you know, it's a bad,
most
what's it called?
game.
No, but what's the phrase? It's like the card game for horrible people, isn't not the phrase, the motto.
Yeah.
And I said to her, though, I played Cards Against Humanity with you, roughly the same age as me, but I played it with, like, John, who's, like, 60, you know, and I played it with Kieran, who's, like, 16, you know, like...
well, for us, Kieran.
Yeah, I really is, like, that seems to be floating around in the ethos somewhere.
Yeah.
But, I think he's lying, personally. But yeah, it's so great because the generational, the spectrum is so wide, you know. And I always keep saying to people, how else would me and you meet somebody like that? Like,
well, I mean, like, just looking around at sort of the people who've come in for International Tabletop Day today, we've had everything from sort of young kids, age sort of 6, 7, 8, through to, I don't want to speculate as to
all this is, unfortunately, John hasn't been here today, which is a bit surprising.
There's got to be a couple of...
I would say it's probably, I'd say... You know, at OAPs, as in retirement age onwards, maybe, or at least not. Even if not now, they're regulars of the board game club. So
I mean, I don't know anything else that's going at the moment that brings in such a diverse group of people.
What's so great about it as well? It's regarded as like, I mean, I don't know what you think, but it's sort of regarded as like a geeky thing to do, and yet look at the diversity, like, you know, it kind of makes the word geek like really, you know, diverse, which is the way that I prefer, like, because, I mean, do you think like the best part about it is that it's inclusive rather than exclusive? And I think that's a common misconception.
Definitely inclusive. It doesn't matter who you are away from what you did, as long as you love it.
You think me through it? I was like, I don't care who you are. We can only sing 15 seconds of it before I get sued.
Cool.
Well, copyright, obviously. But yeah, that was so funny. I was like, you were doing it, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, we're doing song lyrics. But I really want to like come up with another one now. That was just so brilliant. But yeah, anyway. But no, it's really good, and like, you know, it's funny because as I've been talking to you during this, I was going to say I know you really well, is that I always kind of morphed that you and Drew have always been going out to this, but I forgot that you didn't.
Me and Drew,
because I met you separately through gamers, but then you obviously became.
We came together through board games.
But we all did, regardless of thingy. But it's funny that way.
It's kind of, it's cool.
I mean, do you think from your perspective of, because I asked Michael the same question in regards to Lindsay, obviously his wife, because they play together. I mean, how from your perspective, because I've never really probably asked you this, I kind of probably know the answer anyway, but, you know, how does it really benefit that Drew and you have a common interest as big as this? Because he's obviously, I think you're the only people, you're probably one of the few people, and I know you probably think I know this anyway, I think this anyway, but you and Drew, like, the equal level of enjoyment you get out of it seems parallel.
We both take
which really must help
a lot out of games. I'm not sure if we take exactly the same thing and we enjoy the same particular part of
definitely.
Games, but we just
I'd agree with that.
Love it.
I can tell when your spectrums kind of align and then they separate sometimes with board games and card games. But
I mean, it's not just. I guess for this, it's not just the board games. We love all kinds of games, video games. We've been doing all the stupid Let's Play stuff. Which has been quite fun.
And we've been talking a lot about, you know, what game's been coming up a lot since I've been talking to people is that we haven't played Test This. I mean, that's just a nuts game.
We played that this morning. I've not played it in ages, actually. It's a silly game.
I know, which literally ends in 30 seconds.
It could be, turn over the top card.
It's really bizarre. But thanks for talking to us, Erin. And like, if you just want to sit, so I'm kind of intrigued now, and I just wanted to ask you about briefly because you're going to your brother's gig, isn't it?
Yeah,
so what's his band? I actually knew you was in a band.
No, my brother's in a band called The Silence. You can totally find them on YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff. They've been going for a couple of years actually, in various states with different band members.
That happens all
but
the
they're
time.
doing quite well. They've done a little tour in America. They've played around Spain. They've recently been doing a UK tour.
Nice.
And tonight they're headlining over at the O2 Academy. So me and the family are all going out to support.
Nice. Awesome.
It's kind of pop punk rock. I don't know who to compare them to. A lot of people I've heard have compared them to Paramore, but they're nothing like Paramore. They just have a very attractive red-headed female singer, which is where the comparison starts and ends. But they're very good.
I'm not going to be at Tabletopday anymore. I'm going to find this particular attractive woman that she speaks of. And she's going to be phoning the police. No, that sounds awesome. I'll have a great time and say hello to you, brother.
I will.
And I'll speak to you soon.
I'll speak to you very soon. I shall come back and we shall play
Maybe
Avalon.
Erin.
It's the late hours.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to come back then?
I'll come back and we'll play Avalon.
We play all like
Avalon
late night. Why do we play such an intense game at like 2 in the morning? It's ridiculous.
No one cares then. No one cares what's going
Yeah.
on.
Are you evil? Yeah. Okay. Love you long time. Right. I'll speak to you soon. And have a nice time you get.
Bye.
Forgive the
Hello everybody, we're back at Newcastle Gamers with Kyle Midgley. Was that how I said it right?
Yeah.
I said it right. With my dyslexia.
Yeah, you got it right.
We can do it, people. We can do it with our dyslexia. But it's lovely to finally get a chance to talk to you, Kyle, because we obviously talk all the time. And so one of the things I wanted to do about the reason I'm doing a podcast here, because I'm really intrigued because I met you through this.
Yeah.
I met loads of people here who I consider friends through this.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of ask people, like, because I'm interested to know how people ended up getting to this point. Like, how did you get started in games? I don't actually know that, and I know you quite well.
Well, that's a very long story.
Well, we've got time.
Okay. Well, to start with, at a very young age, I've always been a board gamer.
Yep.
At a very young age. But it came to a point where I got the board games when I was very young. Then I first went into Warhammer 40k. Then I'm still doing it now, and believe it or not, it's been over nearly 25 years of disruption in that genre.
Yeah.
But during my late teens, I got bored, and I went to join Traveling Man, where I did Magic the Gathering, went on the tournament scene, got to the Nationals and all that. Then after that, I got bored with Magic because the prices and the deck getting stupid. So I thought,
Oh God, we could rant about that for ages.
we could.
I mean, I have about. You could do your story. I just want to make this brief comment of that. I must have about £600 worth of Magic the Gathering cards in a box somewhere at home.
I've got a legendary deck at home that's nearly about 1,000.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like how long ago? How long ago are the cards? Like how old are they?
shiny gold powder first come out.
All right. Okay.
That's
quite a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think the last ones I bought, like the last Magic cards, were Return to Ravnica. That's the first ones I ever got.
Yeah.
Just can't keep up with them. But anyway, you continue your story.
After that, I joined the war gamers. After that, because I wanted to change, and Mike from Charlie Man, who now left, be a teacher, he showed us board gaming and been doing this ever since. And believe it or not, out of the original members of Charlie Man, I think I am being Garrett the last original two.
Alright, cool. So you must have been coming here, I mean, I think I've come about, so you must have been coming over at least 2.5 years.
Try a decade.
A decade. I mean, actually, you can ask this then if you're one of the original members, because I've been trying to work out, do you know how long this has been running?
In Traveling Man.
Well, do you know, like Newcastle Gamers in particular, do you know how long it's been running for?
To be honest, I'm not 100%, but I'm aware that I think Mike was the very first original.
Yeah.
I think probably, I know it's 10 plus years, because I joined them when I was 18, and now I'm 29. So I've been around for quite some time.
That's pretty cool.
But I've been around for quite some time, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've made a lot of friends. And
it's really good.
And
I mean, from your perspective, considering you've been there from the beginning, like, what do you think about the transition of how it's got to now that we're doing a tabletop day in a hall? And
it's amazing because during my time at GW, you would only get to see the big games when it's like the event, by the store, or when you go to a tournament. Then when you have for Traveling Man, when it's like the independent scene, you're going to see a lot of people. But when we elevate it to this point, it makes me happy to see there are lots of people out there, and it's not people who are just young as me or even younger. It is actually people who are older, who've been doing this for more than what I've done. And
like 30 years. Some people,
I mean, in China we used to have a person come in who was in his 70s used to play board games.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately he no longer plays them anymore. For obvious reasons. But the thing is, though, when you've got people who old as that, and the young as well. I mean, we've got young people like Kieran, who's like in his early
16,
teens. And he's goes to a couple of friends who's managed to bring in. And also, on my end, I've taught a lot of people how to play Magic. I've also taught people in the board game as well.
That's brilliant.
They can't come here, unfortunately, due to personal things. But however, I have showed them Warranty, and they love that game. Now they want to play more of that kind of game, which I'm happy to teach. And it's a good thing. I mean, when you get people who want to learn and want to enjoy the games, that's when it's more rewarding.
And
that's
absolutely.
Why I believe board games are a good way to bring people together. You can socialise, you can have fun, you can have chat. I mean, board game to me is 10 times better than GW the way it's going right now. I'm going to be honest. GW at the time is like shithole, pardon my language.
No, you can say it.
But board game, I mean, it's warm, inviting, fun, and enjoyable, and I recommend people to do it.
I mean, we mentioned this earlier that like, I mean, obviously, they're not here. I mean, it's currently heading towards 7 o'clock, so some of the kids have left. But earlier in the day, I think before you got here, there was kids as young as like 6 or 7 playing Dixit and various other games, and it just goes to show that, like, as you pointed out, the spectrum of people that come to these events are great.
It is, and that's the best part about it. And also the fact is as well, I mean, when the young people go to teen huts, sometimes they leave, but they do remember these good times, and eventually they do come back, which is a good thing. And if we set this good impressions and look, we were warm, inviting people. We're not, these. Well, how can I put it? Like the old cliche of we're geeks, we're nerds, we're unsociable. Hardly. I mean, if you look at each spectrum, I'm a blue-collar worker who's also a YouTuber to boot, and I'm rough and tough at times, but I'm also generally fair. To let's say, who can I pick who's like Anna, who's like also like a kind of like Chelsea geek stuff, but she's far from it. She's a rough, tough young lass, but that's the thing. This whole misconception, if you go past that, you can see how friendly and how fun board games can be.
And really, it comes down to, like you're saying, I mean, because the amount of people that come back. It's all based on the fact, and we touched on it earlier in the other interviews we've done so far, is that you have to be nice to people with board games, because without the other player, you don't have a thing. Like, it's not a video game that you can play single player on your own. You need other people to enjoy the experience, and if you're a horrible person while doing that, they're not going to come back. So you develop good social skills, and so the stereotype of that we're not sociable is completely ridiculous.
I agree, and to be honest, I find board games as a good teaching method to kids.
Absolutely.
Because a friend of mine who's a teacher used a board game to teach literature and numeracy. I mean, when I was at school, we did the same thing, because three of my friends, right, we were advanced to our class, right? So we were given a project, which was to play a game of Monopoly. I know Monopoly is the devil worship thing, and it's the devil among games, but we were taught how to numeracy, literacy at the same time, but also to probability, and also like adding and subtracting money to and also investments as well. So from a simple game of Monopoly taught us a lot of things. Okay, it was a month study, but it taught us a lot in that 1 month. A simple board game.
I mean, we were talking to elaborate to signify the point you're making as well. We were talking about this earlier in the interview that Carcassonne, for example, was made by a teacher to show maths and research and resource management and how to and in a really simple sense, a jigsaw, because if you think Carcassonne is a jigsaw, putting pieces together, so it's learning. The same numeracy, how to score, because obviously there's a very unique scoring system in that, and that was done by a German teacher. So most of the games, they are done by teachers, doctors, psychologists, very smart people, and in an overburdened way, they're provoking certain parts of the psyche, but they're also teaching us the various skills we use in everyday life. I mean, when you think about it,
every game we're playing, we have to do mental arithmetic, we have to do a lot of reading, we have to do a lot of thinking of what to plan next.
Yeah.
It's like everyday life. So this is a good exercise in that kind of thing.
Yeah, I wanted to just quickly ask you. I mean, I don't obviously stick to the time, but I want to just quickly ask you because I've played a lot of games with you since I've been coming to this.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to ask you, like, do you have a particular favourite? Because you always seem to be someone who will play anything. Is there anything that you really think is a really great game from your opinion? Like you go, that's the one for me. If I was on death row right now and they're like, Kyle, you've got one game and one game only.
Oh, that's cruel, man.
That is cruel. Well, it's cruel that I've made you die in this scenario, but I'm going with it. It's only a metaphor.
I've got enough of that from my YouTube work. Yeah.
Oh, the dreaded YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am a Let's Play by heart, and I do die a lot. So.
Yeah.
But let's say, few great games because. To be honest, I've played ridiculous amount of games.
I know, that's why I'm asking. I'm intrigued to make you think.
I would say my top favorite game is Lord of Waterdeep. It's one of the most fun, crazy games you're going to play, and it's one of those games where you can either bullshit your way to victory, or you can tactically
stop other people playing.
Yeah. Or if you're behind, you could just easily one move, go to the front.
Yeah. Especially with the expansions out of the 40-point quest, you can be really far behind.
Hell yeah.
I know, yeah.
But I have got a worse game.
That's probably a better question. Go for it.
Dead of Winter.
Really? You don't like it?
You know why?
Go on then.
I played it. How much did it last?
10 minutes? 4 years? Somewhere in between.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Because someone utterly screwed up and killed us all.
Okay. Well, there
4 minutes in the game, dead.
That's still about 3.5 minutes longer than we haven't play tested this. But there you go.
Yeah, and it just goes this way. We all got our favourites and hates. We all do.
Yeah. So you mentioned just before you go, I want to obviously mention your Let's Plays and stuff because that sounds really interesting. So, what is your YouTube handle? My YouTube is BlackTemple89. And at the moment, I have going is the Road to Remake, which is Resident Evil games that are going on to the remake. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't do the final part of, remastering. Yeah. Number one, because of the fact that Capcom at the time were throwing strikes. But I also do one-shots, which I've just done recently with Smite. Okay. I also do a Let's Fight series where find games I fight. The one that's coming up at the moment is Mortal Kombat. Yeah. It's coming out this week, which I am ready to go. I was just saying I haven't bought Mortal. It's funny you say that because I had a conversation during one of the games saying that I'm Mortal Kombat. I was doing I haven't bought a Mortal Kombat game in a while, and I've been keeping an eye on the new one, and it looks amazing. Oh hell yeah! I would love to do collaboration with people with some games, but without enough time. Yeah. No, totally. Well, I mean, I'm sure we could come up with something if you're interested. I would. I mean, I'd totally love to collaborate on it. But yeah, please do check out his channel. I'll make sure I put a link underneath the podcast and on iTunes. So have a click and make sure you subscribe and follow him and let him know what he's doing. Thanks, guys. I could do with the help. No worries. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Kyle. It's really nice to finally get an opportunity. Thank you. No worries. Thanks for having me. And in the words of the great Will Wheaton, let's go play some games. Oh, hell yeah! Cool. Testing. Woo! I'll just left it thingy down. Cool! You want to be just like... Yeah, I can. So then we'll play some side by side. Hello, Drew! Haven't seen you in a while. No, you can't. No, hi Drew. Nice to have you back on the podcast. You're not obviously with me now doing the podcast again. So, hello, happy Tabletop Day. Happy International Tabletop Day to yourself, sir. So, have you enjoyed today so far? No, it's been terrible. I'm not coming ever again. I've not played a single game. Yeah. No, it's been really good. I really enjoyed it. Apart from losing by 1 point. Just saying. Straight from the off. We had an epic Lords of Waterdeep game where I won by 1 point. But for the context of this, Lords of Waterdeep is potentially if me and Steve picked a single game to be our favourite game,
it would be that.
I would say so, yeah.
We play it all of the time, and I've apparently got the habit of being the person who usually wins.
You say we played it all the time, but we worked out it was our first time in 2000.
It was the first time this year, but
when it was all like 2014 game, I would say.
Yeah, we've played that practically every week.
Yeah, every game.
Every game is
for 2 weeks every week, every session. So.
But I think we played enough of it.
I would say though, in fairness, I mean, you made this victory today, but I think you probably won about like 10 more games than I have.
Well, like I say, there was that time when I had 6 victories in a row.
Yeah. Tell him come a ball for Drew.
Don't want to brag about it.
I guess I'll beat you again this week. With my epicness. But
anyway.
But no, yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun, and so. One of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast here is to talk about obviously the effect that tabletop gaming has and various other things, and also ask you, like, I'm sure I've probably asked you this in the past quite a few times, but
just see previous podcasts.
Yeah, see previous podcasts. Yeah, just look at the back catalogue of the ones Drew's been on. But because I asked Erin this, and I obviously didn't know how Erin got involved in the games. But do you remember like the first time you ever played sort of these type of games and thought, this is cool?
Yeah, I know I've talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I think I have. I went home for Christmas and one year, and my brother had heard of Dixit and said that essentially we should get it to play with the family, and played Dixit, and I really loved it. Me and my brother went hearts and hearts on it, and I've left it at home, and it's a great game. Can't argue with it, really, can you?
I don't know whether you're being 100% truthful, because I don't know whether I'm misjudging what I think you would do, because I actually think, are you really that bothered that you don't have Dixit? Because I don't actually think
I'm not too bothered.
I've seen you play it.
I'm not too bothered. I quite like Dixit, but I mean, I think it works best when you're playing with people who know you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that you can't just bring out and play all of the time.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of times where I've quite fancied it, but I haven't had a copy because it's at home. But whatever. But yeah, so I played that, went to Gamers, and then I'm here.
Oh, did you pick up the Dixit promo then today?
I picked up the Dixit promo to send to my brother for International Tabletop Day.
Nice. Yeah, we saw it on the.
Put it in our set.
Yeah. And I took the Flux, which is excellent. I mean, do you really like? I mean, obviously this is the third time they've done Tabletop Day. I mean, do you like the promos? Because I know you got quite a lot. And we were talking about this earlier today.
I'll take anything for free, really. That's nice. It's like a mini expansion to your game, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a few more bits to the game. It's a little bit of fun. Sometimes it's nice to have that little nod for the thing you like. I mean, I'm quite a bit of a fan of Tabletop Day, and Tabletop Day. So, it's just.
I mean, what do you think of? Because obviously I've not done the podcast since season 3 came out. Like, what do you think of the sort of difference in quality? And obviously with all the money they got through Indiegogo, wasn't it?
It's certainly improved.
Yeah,
I would say. I mean, it was getting like a bit towards the end of the second season.
Yeah.
It wasn't really anything great.
Yeah.
This season they played a couple of really good games, which I'm really happy about. They're doing the role-playing game thing soon, which I'm really excited to see.
The role-playing RPG. Have you heard what they're doing with that?
I've heard.
Really awesome, doing like our own
weird thing.
We had like GM
using
certain rule set that they came up with.
What was it? Dragon Age rule set.
Yeah, probably.
But changed to suit anything.
Will's going to be the GM, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've just gone into role-playing games again, so
yeah. In what sense? Which ones?
I started getting me and Erin, who has been on this podcast before. We've been talking about.
He's joking, everybody.
It's fine.
Drew has died. This is now awake. Oh no, he's a zombie. Which would be appropriate.
Erin, who was on the podcast, me and her were talking about running a role-playing game at some point. And generally it was Erin saying that she was going to run stuff.
Yeah.
And then, basically nothing happened. And I think that was more down to just finding the time to do it.
Yeah.
To put everything together and whatnot, to play, and also a little bit of nerves. Don't kill me for saying that, please. But yeah, so I decided so I was really in the mood for playing some role-playing games. I just started doing some stuff like Goblin Quest. We played Sean Bean Quest involved in that as well, which I've got the full book for that now.
Oh, cool.
I've got to tell you.
Have you pen and paper on that now?
I've got the actual, not the actual book, but I've got the PDF still, but I've got the full artwork thing for it. Anyway, so we've been playing games like that. I played the Ghostbusters role-playing game at Geek. I did.
That was any good?
It's really good, really good, really solid game.
I absolutely adore Ghostbusters. I think that's
a friend of mine, because they've done the Kickstarter recently for the Ghostbusters game.
Yeah.
And they went, I went online and someone was like, go and check out. I think it was Shark and Sit Down that did it. Said if you have a chance, go to this website. You can download all of this stuff for Ghostbusters for free. And I went and checked it out, and it's a really simple system. And it's just a lot of really crazy stuff that happens. So I played a bit of that. So I was really into wanting to run like a proper meaty role-playing game. So I went and bought Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Alright, yeah.
And I've started running some campaigning that.
Oh, nice.
I started running some of my own stuff, but then I caved and was like, it's a lot of work. And I don't have a ton of time to do it now.
When Andrew, I think he's moved, which is why he doesn't come to these anymore. When we did Dragon Age RPG, he used the Roll20 net thing and he would design his own maps for the online. So we'd basically play a sort of mini virtual map thing. And he would literally have about 10 pages of notes and he's it would take him 2 days or something to kind of come up with a campaign.
I had the rough idea where I wanted them to go.
Spend that much time on it,
Well, this thing, I had the rough idea where I wanted them to go.
Yeah.
And then they've just released the Elemental Evil storyline, which I'm a big fan of. The Temple of Elemental Evil, which is one of the best D&D adventures there is.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get that. I can implement some of the stuff I was planning into that, so it won't be the same. You good?
Cool.
That's what I've been.
So are you so in the Ghostbusters role-playing game? I'm assuming you're the Ghostbusters. And
there's two ways you can play it. There's one way you can play as the actual Ghostbusters from the film, and then you go on crazy adventures as them. The more interesting way to play it, however, is you and your friends are just set up a franchise of Ghostbusters, and you are working as a franchisee of Ghostbusters in your area. So when I ran it at Geek, it was you were yourself in the Ghostbusters universe. Yeah. So I allow people to change things a little bit about themselves, and it wasn't strict and going, you can't have that. And then you just.
You start from the bottom and make
from the bottom, you end up owning, and then you start you can cool. There's lots of stuff. You can really make it really simple. So if you want to Giant Bus Ghost, you can go and do that. Or you could have this really big campaign where you owe a lot of money to Ghostbusters, and so you've got to go and do things for them to pay them off for the very expensive stuff.
Okay, cool.
It's quite, so you can, and then you can have all really good stuff in there. But it's a very nice, it's a very simple system, but you can sort of complicate it up a little bit if you really want a more meaty thing.
Nice. So in regards to, because I know we talked about this is the third tabletop day that there's been.
Yes.
What do you kind of think? Because I've asked everyone who's been interviewed on this podcast for this one. What does that tabletop day mean to you? And obviously seeing people as we're recording this right now, we can look through the kitchen and see a bunch of people playing and laughing and being immersed in these games and the sort of diverse of ages and everything. I mean, what is it what do you feel about it?
I'm going to get right nice and close to this microphone so I can say this as sexy as possible and say Tabletop Day just means playing more games.
That's literally
that's really the point of the day. But it's great to see new people come down. I can look out and I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. I'll play with some new people today. People will come down and check out some games. We went to Tramping Man earlier, and there was a massive queue of people waiting to buy board games, which was great to see.
Yeah.
Board gaming is a great hobby. Modern board gaming is a great hobby, I should say. Just don't buy Monopoly. But
like the third person to say that in this podcast.
Modern board gaming is great. It's in a day and age where you can check your phone and you can see all of this stuff on the internet and whatnot, and you can play games with someone around the other side of the world and shoot them in the head in a game. It's really nice just to sit around the table, be really social, play some great games. And like someone here pointed out to me earlier that I've got a reputation for liking simple games. And it's because I really like nice, simple mechanics where there's not a lot to make a really nice little experience. Like, I love Letter to that, I love...
Yeah, Erin was saying how great Love Letter was just for the simplicity of it. It's the most
Especially Batman Love Letter.
Yeah, I played that one... Do you remember that one time when I turned to a Geek retreat and she had to go to the toilet? Like, and I won the hand and I didn't even know really what I was doing. Like...
Batman,
so
Batman
is it not just cosplay then? Because I've got this feeling that's like cosplay Love Letter. But
it is. It's like just a reset of the theme. But there's like some stuff in it that's kind of nice. So like, Batman is now the guard. Batman can. So Batman, the guard's power, if you don't know, is that he can get one of the other cards, knock them out. If he knocks out a villain. If Batman knocks out a villain, you gain a winning token, and you're not playing 4 tokens now. It's you're playing first to 7.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I was saying, so it's added a nice rule, which it doesn't change the game too much, but it makes a bit of a difference. And it's kind of nice for Batman to finally tell Joker how he lives.
Yeah, I was about to say, because it's a little bit bizarre that the love letter is Batman trying to tell Joker that how much he loves him.
Well, the real reason is you're trying to get the most, the highest, the best villain to put away in Arkham. But that's not as fun as Batman revealing his love for Joker.
Yeah. I mentioned this earlier, and I know Erin said, I asked Erin the same question, is that one of the things I think is cool about you know, this board game club and Tabletopday and stuff like this, is that, like I said, like, you know, Erin's like, I always assume because I now envisage you and Erin together, and it just feels weird not doing that. But then I forget that, like, you two weren't together when I first met you. And yet, so you
Is there a question here?
Yeah, they're getting that.
Right, okay.
Is that you know, so I'm basically getting at is that, like, our friendship, you know, we wouldn't have met each other without this board game club. You know, you wouldn't have met Erin without the board game club, and so, like, do you feel the impact that, like, board games has had on your social life? Because I certainly noticed it since I, like, redone it. Like, a lot of my social circle now is people who play board games.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's here because they really like playing board games. When you pull out a game and, like, you see 6 people wanting to play a game with you instantly, you know that these are going to be, you know. I pull out Zombie Side, and 6 people go, I want to play that with you. And you know that you're going to get on with them because they're willing to play a game about zombies. If you get out a game about historical history buying and historical history buying, wars and, like, you know, historical war
historical history,
stuff like that.
Historically accurate history game.
Yeah. you know the people who are going to play with you, or at least have some interest in that. Or whatever. See,
whatever the theme is.
Really easy to make friends by coming down to something like this. Like, a lot of people I talk to who aren't really into board games think the most intimidating thing is finding people to play the game with.
Yeah.
But just come down to a gaming session.
So easy,
Find something you think looks cool. Just play with them, and you'll probably get on with at least 2 or 3 of the people.
What I think is, I think one of the common misconceptions I get whenever I say, I'm thinking about coming to gamers, and I say, like, the common misconception is the thing that, like, it takes forever to get someone to play a game, and I think it's like one of the least difficult things here. Like, it's like when Alhambra, which some people are like, I'm not really that. I know you're not like the greatest fan of that. But someone who was new came to Game Us today, like, hold it up and went, I want to play this, and we just went, yeah, we'll play it. And literally it took 45 seconds to figure out. Like,
rarely do I have a problem. I mean, everyone sort of knows me as a guy who will bring a lot of games down and will be happy to play most of them with people.
Yeah.
I'm happy to lend them to people as well, because it gets more people interested in the game. But the important part is that I know I could probably hold up a game now, and if there was people waiting around not playing a game, and I could probably find 3 or 4 people to play a game.
Exactly, yeah.
I managed to get 14 people to play 2 Rooms and a Boom earlier, and all I really said was, I'm going to play this game.
Yeah.
It's great. And 14 people were like,
yeah. Some people just finish the tables and like, playing this if you're interested. Cool.
I mean, if you're remotely interested in playing board games, find a group, find a set of friends who'll be willing to play it, because you never know. And I'm going to be sappy and get myself some bonus points here with the missus, but you might end up finding someone that you fall in love with.
Aww. Thanks, Drew. I love you too.
I love you too, Steve.
Sorry, Erin. But yeah. But also as well, I wanted to make the point of, I was going to mention this, is that a lot of the people who I play games with here, I would be more than happy to meet in another social setting. It doesn't have to be the board games. I mean, me and you hang out all the time, and Erin, and obviously Kyle, there's people here who I play games with who I would regard as friends because I don't see them outside of here, but I like them. But there's a lot of people now in here.
Which one?
One included.
No, sorry.
Yeah. You don't like that guy? I'm pointing at no. Dean just went, "You mean me?" And he's really getting upset. "You mean me, one?" Yeah. But yeah, so no, it's good. I've noticed one of the things that today has done for me is it's reinforced to me that 90% of my social circle now is being through this, and I play games. It's my main hobby, barring because video games, I think, for me, and sort of board games, obviously you need other people.
Video games don't really do that whole, I used to play a lot of video games when I was a lot younger. I used to play way more video games than I do now. But, because you could get your mates around and you could play 4-player GoldenEye and stuff like that, and then they stopped doing it because they could get more processing power, get better graphics in and stuff like that. And I think it's a shame that video games have done that. But then on the other hand, I find it a lot harder to play a 4-player video games nowadays. Getting 4 people interested to play the same video game as me. And I suppose you could turn around and say, "Oh, you've got Xbox Live and the internet for that." But everyone on the internet is a jerk.
But also, you're so right, because I think my oldest friends who I've known 20 odd years, I know play video games and can play multiplayer games like Destiny or whatever, as an example, and I see them log on, and I'm getting to organise everyone to be online at the same time to play one of the video games is virtually impossible. If I decided tomorrow to go and woke up tomorrow and went, I'm going to try and organise, during the week, a board game session, you would get a bunch of people together. And the only reason, majority of the time, people would turn it down is because, got something else to do, or it's too short notice, or whatever. It's never, it doesn't sound like fun, which you get with some people, but I love that aspect of it, and I think it comes down to that you have to be nice to people, otherwise they won't come back, and you can't play the game without other people. Video games, you can play the single player, you don't have to care about how you treat other people.
Kind of feel like we've got a small audience now.
I know, yeah. I think it's because Dean was so upset. And we were going, we don't like him. He's like, no, why? You've got nothing wrong.
Anyway, enough of hating Dean.
Actually, I'll ask you what I've asked everyone so far, is that, I mentioned that we really like Loads of War, even you say that's sort of our game. But what would you say?
Our game, Steve.
What would you say the favourite game? I asked Kyle this, if you were on sort of death row and they said you've got one game and one game only to play before you perish, what would it be?
What's the longest game?
I'll do a 12-month campaign of D&D.
I've really got to complete the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Such a geek answer.
No. Are you asking me my favourite board game?
Yeah, just suppose if you had one chance to play one game for the last time,
I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but Monopoly. No.
You said Monopoly, and we just got the door slammed on with.
Zombicide.
Yeah.
The Zombicide is my favourite. The Zombicide, hands down, is my favourite game, and
which we just finished playing about half an hour ago.
We just finished playing a game of it, and
it's awesome.
I mean, I really love it. It was the first proper board game I bought myself. Yeah, I mentioned I bought Dixit, but after going down to Gamers, and when I realised I've got people I can play games with.
It was your first proper decision, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my first proper game, and
you went, I'm going to get that. Cool.
As I mentioned, I have the thing for buying board games and stuff, and it's because I love playing new games and stuff, so I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
So when I found like I had a group of people that I could play board games with, it was like, great, I'll buy some board games. And I went and looked around Travelling Man. I mentioned this earlier, actually. I went around Travelling Man, and which is a great shop in Newcastle. Because I'm giving shout outs to everyone apparently. And Zombicide like bit my ear, and like I saw it looked really cool, and I was like, it's 70 quid, and I don't know if I'm gonna. So I went and looked at reviews, and I was just like, it's great, and everyone said like it's really good, and I went and bought it, and it is. I've never got bored playing that game, and I bought everything that they've got for it. I kickstarted the second season.
I have to say as well, like
it's just stupid good fun.
Season 3 was. I really enjoyed.
It's like 4 whacking great big boxes at the moment.
But there you go. I'm just realised it's just like stopped. Oh, we're still. Good.
Alright,
okay. I said that before you finished. It just wouldn't sing in the thing. I think it's recorded that bit. But anyway, yeah, it's been really nice catching up. I'll make sure you get on some podcasting sometime, because we're booking some stuff now that we're back. So. And obviously, hopefully, as I said to you earlier on, is that we'll be going to Expo again, so be involved in that, obviously.
I would love to be involved in that, Steve. I would love to come and interview you.
I don't actually know, as I say, there's 2 question marks on the site right now. I have no idea who that is. How awesome would it be so that I don't have to go, so then I was like, I don't have to think about London Expo. It's like, if it is, then it'll be there. That would be so awesome.
Don't think so.
I don't think so either, though.
Chris Barrett?
One can do it. Second year in a row, I'm like,
hi Chris,
you're everywhere. Chris, why don't you please stop coming to conventions? I'm bored of you now. It was fun the first time.
Chris, when are you going to come on the podcast solo?
Yeah. No, I have spoken to him a little bit since I've been back, and we are kind of thinking about sometime.
As long as you get me involved, because I've been in all of the Chris Barrett interviews. I want to continue being.
I was saying to him about doing a full one, but. Also, we found out about a week ago that obviously this is in reference to gaming. I know you touched on Munchkin. Is that I got an email back from John Kavalak, who does all the graphic design, who does Dog Tower as well, which is a really great comic book.
He's done Zombicide. He's done Zombicide Survivors.
Oh, has he really?
I haven't got them.
Oh, there you go.
But he's done they did special artist box where they can design their own ones, and he's done it in the Munchkin style.
Oh, sweet. Well, also as well, I found out, which got me super excited, is Michael told me that they're doing a Judge Dredd thing for Munchkin Apocalypse, and I was like, that sounds awesome, because I have Munchkin Apocalypse, so that got me dead excited. So I'm a huge Judge Dredd fan, as you know.
Can I use this time to selfishly plug that what we're doing, because I've come on your podcast a lot.
Yeah.
But if you like listening to my voice, and if you like sexual tape. You can call me up on 0800. Sorry.
It's like you know them old Channel 5 things we used to have late at night, where we're like, feeling lonely.
Me and Steve will be on. So if you like listening to my voice, and if you like listening to Erin, who is on earlier, I do a Let's Play channel. It's called very simply Drew and Erin Plays, and essentially we play video games. And we're not very good at it, because we're terrible people. I play video games all my life, but I'm still not very good at it.
What was the game that we played up there, guested on a while ago? It was that platform game where you're Robocop.
Bromance. Not Bromance, what am I on about? That's what we've got. Broforce.
Broforce, that's the one. But it had Robocop, but it wasn't Robocop, it was
Robocop.
Robocop, that's the one. That was fun.
So we do a Let's Play channel. We're just starting everything back up again. We do videos twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. Sweet. Steve has agreed to come and join on and talk about his stuff while we play video games. It's on the YouTube.
We'll do some sort of collaboration at some point, but
so
check it out. I'll make sure I put a link on it, because as I say, we talked about Kyle's one as well. So I do that. Come and check me out. Yay! Or don't.
And his YouTube channel.
And his YouTube channel.
But it's been really fun talking to you again, but obviously I've been talking to you all day. It makes that sound like we just like booked this last minute and like I just turned up now.
So I really like when we came back from Sainsbury's and I was like, look, someone was like, do you want to join this game? I was like, look, I'm going to eat and then I'm going to try and convince Steve to talk to me.
It sounded like we had the most horrible argument and we're going to Sainsbury's to get some sandwiches. And I was like, something's alright.
Shit happened, man.
Yeah. It was like, oh, it was really brutal. It came to blows.
Is there anything else, or are you trying to get rid of me now?
No, I think we're done. I mean, that was enough. But is there anything else you want to mention other than you said your Let's Plays? I mean, I was going to say to you, I'll like put you on the spot now. But I was kind of thinking about this idea of doing like some sort of Let's Plays board games.
I've literally on Tuesday just released a video on my Let's Play channel. With me and Erin driving around Los Santos in Grand Theft Auto 5 chatting about what we're going to do.
Nice.
But
with a new
I just said on that I'm in the process of looking into doing board game Let's Plays. I have the stuff that I need to be able to do it out. What I've got right is I don't want to do reviews. I don't want to do instructional videos anymore because there's a lot of work in doing those. I literally just want to get games and play them. The thing is I need to get people who know how to play the games. Which it sounds really stupid to do that and like just like that, but I want to be able to sit down at the table. This is what we're doing. This is the game we're playing, and they just know all of the rules, know how to play it. So there's no rules questions because you've got to remember it's. Can I go into the technical stuff, or is it really boring? Basically, the idea would be is that we just record everything that we do, and then I would edit it down. Kind of like what they do on Tabletop, essentially, is the idea of
like 2 hours long and then figure it out.
But if I've got to keep going through and keep having to cut out bits where I'm explaining the rules to everyone, it's really annoying. I've got to have people who are confident on being on camera and being in there and don't mind slowing things down, or if we've got something wrong, going back and fixing that and stuff like that. That is what I want to do. I don't want a ton of people. So like, I know Zombicide, for example, could take 6 people. I don't want 6 people because that's a lot of people to get in the shots and to have to make weight and it's
lock the camera.
You've got to remember, like everything is going to be delayed by the fact you were recording the game.
Yeah.
Also picking the right games. So it's a lot of work. I'm not saying this is something that's going to be released anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put you on the spot now, Steve. You are one of the people who have made on the shortlist to people who I want to get on to do it.
Cool.
Will you come and join me and play some board games?
Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, the idea is that we will put on a board game, we'll play a board game, kind of tabletop-y style. I'll try and avoid tabletop games as much as possible.
I think there's an avenue for like there's games they don't explore.
There's games they don't explore for the reason they pick it, and there's probably good reasons they don't pick to explore it. But I mean, there's like I just want to be able to like
a bit of a family element with some of them. Yeah.
And the amount of times that when I've been like, do I really want to buy this game? Do I really want to spend like 30, 40, 60, 50, 70, 80, 100 pounds in a game? Yeah. It's a lot of money for one game.
Yeah.
But I mean, a review, like the reviewers, there's a million people reviewing things on the internet and they tell you everything that's in the box, how it plays in comparison to everything else in their set and stuff like that. And it's good, it's informative, it's helpful, it's kind of bollocks. Because what you don't like, I might like, or like you might say, but I've got this other game here that's much better, but I might like the theme of the game or something like that. So yeah. But like the actual seeing people playing the games is really informative to see how the game plays, and you know.
Well, I think obviously, like because if you like can do it at an entertaining enough level and show enough of the game, hopefully like the narrative will be that they'll pick the game up as you watch it.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone sitting down beforehand and doing like this is the rules. That is quite dull. I mean, think of, you take the experience of when we're playing games, especially new ones, and you sit there and have someone go, I was reading through the rules, and they literally read it from the instruction manual, and it's like, it does make you sort of want to go on.
I mean, that's why I like YouTube channels, and like, I really, as I said, I wanted to do instructionals, so basically teaching people how to play games. Because I can do that, I'm quite good at doing it.
Yeah.
I have enough games to be able to like sit there and go through a bunch of games.
Yeah.
There's a guy on YouTube called Watch It Play, Rodney, his name is. He's fantastic at doing these videos, like to the point where I will watch them and I will if I'm really wanting to play a game and I really want people to see how it's played, I will send them the link to on YouTube. That's exactly what he wants people to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could do that. But he does a much better job at it than me. Like, I could never do as good as him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the time to write the scripts out and sit down and properly record it in between everything else. But, I can play a game.
Yeah.
I can gather some great people to play a game. So I've got Steve. Obviously, Erin's going to be involved in it because it's Drew and Erin Plays that the YouTube will be going out on. And I've got to find someone else.
Are you going to record it in your
I will be recording it in when we move.
Yeah,
Potentially, I might do one as like a tester thing if I manage to sort everything out. So even turn around and saying I'm not going to write a script for it. There's still a lot of stuff to sort out for doing something like that. But what I will do is I will stop talking about it now. I will shut my face. We will go and play some more games, and what I will do is I will bug you until you get me on this podcast again as a guest, and we can talk to our heart's content about all of this stuff.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, I don't know whether or not. I've just been kind of winging it in terms of people being on, so we might have some more people on, or we might not. But all it leaves me to say is thanks, Drew, for being on the podcast. And
that's okay. And remember, you can catch me on 0800 983 555.
Yeah, Drew will be on the hotline for the next half an hour.
Calls will be on charge for one dead of winter.
Yeah.
Per minute.
For one tabletop promo. But yeah, no, it's been fun. Thanks, Drew. Let's come play some more games.
Call me.
Yay, bye. Hello everybody, welcome back to Newcastle Gamers. I'm Stephen Hesse, of course, and I'm here with Lloyd. Hello, Lloyd. Are you well?
I think I'm as well as can be expected.
What did you expect?
Well, I expected perfect health, and I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
A very slight snuffle, but I'm not sure that it's enough to worry the listeners.
So once the expectations were lowered, all was well.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to talk to me, because obviously, I've passed through, talk to you, obviously, because we come to these gamers regularly. I suppose the most obvious question to start with is how long have you been coming to these sessions? Because if I'm right in thinking, I think you've come way longer than me.
I started coming here 2 or 3 venues ago. We've changed venue 1, 2. Yes, this is my 3rd venue.
Yeah.
When I first came here, it was usually about 3 table loads of people.
Yeah.
And so we outgrew the early venues pretty quickly, and now we're in this church hall and all these circus equipment, and there must be, what do you say, 8, 9, 10 tables, something like that.
Yeah.
Typical week.
I mean, we've run out of tables this today. I mean, there's been and chairs at one point. Might go and get some chairs from the other place. So, obviously, with some extra people coming today, which is obviously good. Where were the previous venues? I don't actually know. Where were they originally?
I first went when it was at the Oosburn Centre in Heaton.
Yeah,
So there were lots of children's furniture and lots of things in primary colours. And then we were at someone's offices. It was someone's work on Portland Street, and we would just get let in on the sly. And then he had to lock us up and drive back to Haltwhistle, which I didn't envy.
Oh God, yeah, Haltwhistle, I know that very well. Yeah. So I suppose with obviously the Tabletopday being 3 years old, and obviously you seeing the process of the game developing, what do you think's the main sort of reason behind it getting bigger? Is it because of stuff like Tabletopday and various other things?
Or
is it just it got bigger and more people?
Well, I think it's partly just the fashion of the moment that word has got around that board games are actually more interesting than they used to be.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, unless you went to a really obscure specialist shop, and if you went there, you'd probably get something like Legion or Advanced Squad Leader, tiny little hex grids with incredibly thick rule books and loads of little horrible cardboard counters with 15 numbers in the corners, and it was really difficult. It was printed, is that in green or is it sort of aquamarine? And they were. I never really liked those sort of games, to be honest. Or there was the game for drunk adults, Pictionary and so forth. Or there were just the standard ones: Mousetrap, Cluedo, Scrabble, Monotony. and the other one. And once you'd played those, you'd pretty much seen what they could do, and a little bit dull. But then the German game market took off. Couldn't give you an exact date, but that took off, and things like Essen became huge international events, and people who were seriously into gaming got to know that there was this other sort of other game. It was a game for sober adults who weren't avid gamers. So you didn't have to wade through a massive rule book, and you had brightly coloured wooden pieces. So there were little classes of adult. Hey, it's wood and it's craft. It's yoldy-woldy, but it's bright red. Like a little kid's toy. So happy compromise.
So when did that sort of enter your life in terms of these German influenced games and everything? When did that start?
Quite a while back, because my friends at university had things like Settlers of Catan and those sort of games. We also played an awful lot of bridge. We got madly keen on bridge. Although the trouble with bridge is that it was actually antisocial, because a bridge game would break out, and then those people would be taken out of the conversation, and another bridge game would start, and then that'd be 8. And if there were 10 of you there, and you were one of the 2 left over, well, you weren't having any fun at all.
Exactly. So was it stuff like Settlers of Catan that got you involved, or was it something specific?
In the German style, this sort of current fashion of... I think it's probably more to do with the people that I was with, really, rather than the games. So there was Junta, which was fun. Always took too long, but it was a fun game. I'm trying to think of that. There was Illuminati. Illuminati is an old game, and I think Illuminati must have come out in the early 80s. That's a guess, but that feels about right. I mean, I first started going to a shop called Games Workshop. It was number 1 Downing Road, and it was the only games workshop in the world, and it was run by these 2 enormous Canadians, I think they were, huge eyes. They had blonde hair. They were called the Olsen brothers, and they ran this shop which was just stuffed with all sorts of games from all around the world, although an awful lot of them were from America, that you've never heard of, and they're all in Griplock bags and quite expensive. The prices are often written on them in dollars. I remember one of the games I bought quite early was called Kiting. Kiting the Insect Wars.
Sounds like a lost Star Wars film or something.
You played ant-like things that bit each other.
This was before Games Workshop became. It's the same Games Workshop.
Yes, they didn't produce anything. But then after a while, they became more and more abounding with a company called Citadel Miniatures, and Citadel Miniatures got quite big, and then they started publishing White Dwarf, and then that got quite big. And White Dwarf was a great magazine when it used to have scenarios for all sorts of different games.
It was around when I was a kid,
it was a long time after that it turned gradually into a figures catalogue.
And my friend used to get it all the time for the figures and stuff, when they became, the Warhammer type stuff. And
it was Thrud the Barbarian and the Spacefarers and stuff like that.
I wanted to touch on what you said in regards to the people. I mean, do you think that's the case point with games? It's not necessarily the game that people play, it's the company that you have to play.
Yes, there are many games of the German sort that actually, as games, work better on a computer.
Lloyd, you mentioned about company, and that really intrigues me because is it about the company that you keep when you play board games? It's not necessarily about the actual game itself, it's about the people that you play them with.
Definitely, the people are a major factor. A lot of these games actually work better purely as games on a computer, because the computer can keep track of how much money you've got or whatever the various stats in the games are. And you can play a lot faster on a computer. Dominion is quite a popular game these days. And you spend an awful lot of your time shuffling cards and dealing stuff to yourself, and of course all that happens just instantly on the computer. And you can play a game in Dominion in 5 minutes very commonly. If it's a really long game, it might go on for 20 minutes. But with people, a really fast game is about half an hour and a half if they're beginners. Yeah. And Risk was the first game that taught me that. I can remember playing Risk on someone's Mac back in the day, when a Mac screen was about the size of a postcard. And 5 minutes you could whip through a game of Risk. Whereas one of the problems with games like Risk is if you're doomed in Risk, sometimes you can see that you're doomed quite a long way off, or you might even get knocked out and have to sit next to a table whilst other people are playing the game. But here, yes, you're talking to people, you're chatting, you're not fiercely competitive. That's the thing. The sort of people who are into this sort of game tend not to care all that much when they win, and will quite happily give you advice on what tactics to use. And if you make what they think is a very bad move, so bad that perhaps they feel that you haven't understood the rules, they'll just say, oh, do you want to take that back? Because maybe you want to consider this instead. And then you have a conversation about that.
But it's not in the rules line, you can't possibly do that.
They can backfire. I've had games where everyone is an avid gamer. You've got 5 avid gamers, plus one of them's brought his girlfriend. And so one of the avid gamers will make a move, and then the other 4 will all have a great conversation about this, and talking about the tactics and so forth, and they're all attacking each other because no one attacks the girl. She's just playing. No one attacks her, and she just cruises to an easy victory. I've seen that happen so many times. That the one is actually not into the game, who's just turned up just to make up the numbers or whatever, cruises to an easy victory, whilst the avid gamers are all having a lot of fun, all trying to work out how best to backstab each other. And
the one that's left alone.
They'll
never win. I've also seen that where I've also seen sort of a little bit of the opposite of that, where if you get avid gamers and you've got maybe a couple of newbies playing the game, that they'll just not play 100% competitively, and they'll just let them play that, let them get away with sort of mistakes that are obvious to that particular player, but then they'll just go, but it's their first time playing, so I'll not attack them, for example. If there's an option to attack someone in a game, they'll go around and play passively. And I've seen that happen, so it's interesting. I think there's a lot of stuff like that.
I remember playing a game called Spite. I don't know if you've ever come across that, but it's clearly designed for kids. But I was with a load of adults, but they were not gamers. So I turned up with a rucksack full of games, and they said, oh no, can we just start with something really, really simple? So they played this game called Spite. It's a bit like Killer in darts. You roll some dice, and if you get up to a certain level, you can then start knocking points off other people. And they would not pick on anyone. So whoever was in the lead would have a few points knocked off him, and then whoever was in next place would then get a few points knocked off, and it seems cruel because that person's almost out of the game, so let's not attack them. And I found myself at one point saying, guys, it's called Spite! You're supposed to pick on the weak. That's the only way to win. People were playing it the way they were. This is going to go on forever.
It was when I remember when I worked as a youth worker, I introduced Settlers of Catan to kids. And I once watched a game where I was going, oh, they're understanding it, this is great. And they would look at how they were doing and going, oh, but you need to, you just want them. They were helping each other out. And I'm going, how do you kind of show the competitive element without making monsters, but also them going, we'll just give you stuff. We all want to win. I'm that's not quite how it works, but you try not to be overly competitive about it. And it's really interesting. So what would you say was the game for you that made you think, if there is any, that made you go, I want to do this as a hobby, or was it down to the social stuff?
The thing is that I've been playing games of so many sorts for so many years that I don't really see board gaming as a completely separate hobby. It's probably in the case of board games, I suppose it's more to do with the sort of people you can bring into the circle. The term tabletop for me actually distinguishes tabletop wargaming from other kinds of wargaming.
Interesting.
Or possibly roleplay gaming, because there's LARP now, live action roleplay, and then there's tabletop RPG, just to distinguish it from LARP. And with wargaming, you've got your hex grid and cardboard counter stuff, you've got your computer stuff, and you've got tabletop, where you've got little models of Napoleonic soldiers attacking each other. And for me, that's tabletop. But in order to get seriously into wargaming and be taken seriously by others, you've got to put an awful lot of time and money into painting figures and building terrain and all that sort of stuff. And so for people who are wanting to give it a go but not that into it, something like Settlers of Catan is a very nice...
Yeah.
And how much alcohol tolerance as well is a factor. You can have quite a bit of wine in you and still play Settlers of Catan. I've just today played a very complicated game, and at the end of that we all agreed that it was definitely not one to play if you're drunk.
What was the game? Do you remember?
It was a... What was it called? But it was a fiercely finely balanced bidding game. With resources which are incredibly difficult to estimate, because what resources you've got this round determine how many resources you get next round and so forth. So you've really got to ration yourself very, very carefully. And so if you just got drunk and stuff you 30 very, very high rashly high bids could end the game very quickly for you.
I mean, from your sort of perspective, because obviously you've been playing for a long time, like, do you think the standard in general for games has gotten better or worse, or is it kind of...
For board games,
yeah.
It's hugely better than it used to be. There are far more people designing board games now, so just because of the competition means that games that might have got published once... I remember when I was a little kid, if some adult designed a game for kids, it was often absolute rubbish. You just roll. Very often it was luck dependent, and it was... So many of them were just another version of Snakes and Ladders or Ludo or something. You think, oh, I see. It's just Ludo with given it. They've given it a theme. Oh, it's Wallace and Gromit Ludo. Whereas now games are being produced by mathematicians, by very
teachers,
very serious people who spend a lot. And game design is a very good intellectual challenge. It's a very good intellectual discipline. There's so many elements to it. Game balance, how much luck to have in it as well. Because with a lot of these games like Settlers of Catan, you've got a pack of cards that you draw for, and you can get lucky. Now, chess grandmasters don't want that.
Yeah.
They want only the skill of the opponent to be the factor who decides who wins. But with these games, there's a wonderful balance between skill and luck, such that even a mediocre player will do all right. And because they're trying to include everyone right the way to the end of the game, they have all sorts of mechanisms that make it possible for whoever's being annihilated to somehow catch up.
And also you don't know the scores to the end as well, which keeps people interested.
There are all sorts of mechanisms like that. And if you've got a multiplayer game, then you can form alliances. So if someone's doing really well, then the others can band together. Although, one example of how that can backfire is Risk. Where the skill to winning Risk is don't do very well early on. My experience is whoever's in the lead about 1/3 into the game, everyone else does the rational thing, gangs up, and that player gets annihilated.
Makes sense, And as you quite rightly pointed out when you were mentioning about games a lot quicker on computer, you can get Risk for pretty much any console now and play them in 5 minutes because the computer does all the turns really fast and everything. So, and as you pointed out, every time I ever seem to play Risk, everybody... It's almost like the etiquette of to finish the game to the end, or as you pointed out earlier, touched on, if you know you're going to lose the game, you just quit the game, turn the computer off, and that's the end of the game done. Whereas if you're with a bunch of people, you're like, well, we may as well finish this, even though this guy's clearly going to win, because you just spend the turn running away from them, just delaying the game for another 2 hours. Just wait, make someone cry to tears before they decide to go, this is over, it's finished. But so where do you think, based on obviously Tabletopday and everything, including all these new people and all these new games, can you see it getting any bigger? Especially with the Kickstarter and everything as well, making it easier in some ways as well.
It's getting easier to launch games if you've got a really good idea. You've got the internet now to get it out there, and there are people self-publishing, and there are people coming up with all sorts of games that some publishers say, oh, there's no demand for that. And back in the days when it was very difficult to get people with obscure interests together, then that was probably true. But now, because of the internet, even if you've got a ridiculously obscure interest in some very esoteric type of game that takes 5 months to play or whatever, there'll be someone else like you out there, and you can find them through the interweb. There was a game called Kingdom Come. I think I've got that right. I hope I've got that right. A medieval thing that a game designer took to loads and loads of publishers, and they all said, no. People want dragons and knights and heroes and wizards and that sort of stuff. This will never sell, because it was a realistic, set in an actual place with realistic everything. He'd done his research to the nth degree. No, stick some dragons in. And so he lost patience with them, and he went on to Kickstarter. And there were loads of people out there who actually wanted a realistic game that was based on historical actuality, and they raised
found his audience.
They raised several times more money than they needed to start, and
it's a good point. And it's a good point you made. I never really looked at it from the perspective of it's easier to actually find people to play games now, as not just finding an audience. It's like you can more. I imagine, like, am I right in saying that when your sort of first hobby in this started, it was difficult to find anyone to play with, never just compared to now where we're in a hole where people can turn up and look on the internet and find where we are. It's gotten easier to find people.
It's difficult to say when exactly. I started wargaming when I was 6 with Epic's wargaming, World War II wargaming rules, which now I look back at them were rubbish. But I knew no other. My first roleplay game was one of the early versions of Dungeons and Dragons. And wow, it was amazing! You went down a corridor, you came to a door, and of course you would then try to bash open the door because that was standard. And then if there was a monster in the room, after we inevitably killed it, we would then go in, and sometimes you'd find 3,000 copper pieces. That sounds like a lot in a chest. Which is brilliant the first time you do it. And then after one come along, and the waveform thing has stopped moving. Is that bad?
It was just thingy that's still going.
Okay, right.
But no, actually, I know exactly what you mean. It's just obviously because it would have been like just pen and paper, wasn't it? It was a pen and paper when you first started, so it was just like all in your head and all written down. It's also like them basic programs you get in computers where it's just like turn left, there's a forest. I remember them sort of games. It was sort of I can't remember the name of them. The computers. The path, like sort of finding your path and like putting in the command.
Wasn't it?
And
then the Steve Jackson game published Warlock of Firetop Mountain, which was one of those pick-a-path novels, which apparently were extremely influential. Apparently, the average reading age of boys in Britain improved markedly because it was a way to get young boys to read novel-length things, was to put them in that format. Although I was actually introduced to that format, you can go left, right, or push the button sort of thing. A limited menu of options from a game called Tunnels and Trolls, which was a rival to Dungeons and Dragons, but it had loads and loads of these pick-a-path adventures designed for it. Death Trap Equalizer, and others.
Well, as you mentioned, obviously you said about the social aspect. In the games that I've played with you, you've mentioned that you do videos online. Do you want to mention what that is? And I want to kind of know how that started, because you keep obviously it's brought up quite a lot. And I
have a channel called Lindy Beige. Lindy as in Lindy Hop the Dance, and beige as in the best colour there is. And I've been doing that for a long time. It was just a sort of a hobby, really. But recently, it's actually become the main part of my living. And I do the occasional gaming-related video usually to do with role-play gaming rather than board gaming. But I might do some stuff on board gaming in the future. Really, I just do whatever occurs to me. But
I remember the one you sent me about, was it hats? I don't know, it was a while ago. You did some random stuff about hats.
About how lots of hats are in fact
one hat. That's the one. That was ages ago.
Wasn't ages ago.
Well,
a few weeks back.
Was it really? Okay, something like that. But I remember watching one.
My degree is in archaeology, and I've always been interested in authenticity of medieval and ancient worlds and so forth. So I do occasional what's wrong with this film? The whole series on the film Ironclad, which was
Ironclad,
it was pretty rich. There were quite a lot of things wrong with Ironclad, but there are even worse films than that. And
I think we've had this discussion before, but yeah.
So, and a lot of stuff on axes as well.
Yeah.
And look at this axe, isn't it brilliant? It's got an edge on it, and you would never use it like this. And in films, they use it like that, and that's completely wrong.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, I say. And those videos, slightly to my annoyance, get far more views than often considered to be better. I made a series, started a series called Adventures of Stoic Mandeville, Astronaut and Gentleman. Tales of science and heroism for all the family, except ladies. It took me, I'm not kidding, it took 3 months to make one episode, and that had about 6,000 views.
Yeah.
And yet if I just pick up an axe and say, it's an axe, good aren't they? That'll get 30,000 views in 2 days.
Yeah.
There is no justice.
Yeah. I know how I've experienced in that day. I know what you're on about. I mean, how often do you upload them? Do you upload them just when you can? Or have you got a schedule?
I aim for 2 a week. Occasionally I do 3 or 4 a week. Somewhere around 2 a week is my average. Annoyingly, it seems that the more one behaves as a normal television channel, that is to say, the more regular one's schedule is and so forth, the better one does. Which I think that's just so wrong. Surely YouTube shouldn't operate like that. We should be able to break away from television channels with trailers and advertising and schedules and all that sort of stuff. But it seems you can't.
It's interesting. I got asked that question in an interview the other day about whether YouTube should treat themselves as a TV network, and I'm like, but YouTube became who they were by not being a TV network.
Yeah, and if I make a video now, then in 10 years' time, it's still the same video.
Yeah, exactly.
Why
it hasn't changed?
Why? When I uploaded it, should be almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
I'd have thought. But the most successful channels, yes, they behave like BBC One or whatever.
Yeah, and it's also to do with the fact. I mean, having spoken to some people like that. They very often have to upload as often as possible to get the percentage of cuts to be in partnerships with YouTube, because of the cut they get is so tiny.
Oh, right.
So they become full-time people, but it requires them to upload so much to get an average amount of views so they can get a percentage from advertising sales, which is...
Well, I just recently, we're going a bit off topic here from board gaming, but just recently
I just wanted to mention it,
I have been a bit shocked to discover that 78% of my viewers earn me nothing at all. 78% of people watching my videos are sharing it on Facebook or using ad blocker or something that by some means or other they're getting round the monetization system of YouTube.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what to do about it.
Yeah, there was a friend of mine who's like is a pretty well-known YouTuber who sent me a tweet basically saying like about ad blocker, saying, you know, she gets loads and loads of emails of people saying like, but I'm going to have to look at, and I'm like, you do realise this is my income? So if you want my videos, you need to turn it off when you watch my videos, because you're actually affecting my product, like by doing that. But people just don't understand that that's where the revenue comes from. But
as people, yes, but why would anyone want to watch the adverts?
Yeah.
So I guess that more and more people are going to use ad blocker or going to share it off YouTube, so they end up watching the annoying ads. At which point, YouTube's business plan collapses. So,
you're right. Yeah, it leads to, is that the right idea? Yeah, good point. Yeah. But so thanks so much for agreeing to talk to me, Lloyd. It's really nice to finally get to talk to you in this kind of manner. But obviously we talk all the time on the games and stuff like that. Happy Tabletop Day and
huzzah!
Oh yeah, huzzah! Awesome. Thanks, Lloyd. I appreciate it. Cheers. Yeah, go on, do it.
You're listening to the audio version of the Geek Apocalypse podcast, brought by yours truly, Mr. Resident Geek, Stephen Hesse. We are available on iTunes, as well on www.geekapocalypse.com. Broadcast live and exclusively from Newcastle, England, in good old UK. We also have a YouTube account, which is www.youtube.com/geekapocalypse, where we will be uploading all the videos from our podcast, as well as from Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, we are also just starting a Twitch account, which you can find at www.twitch.tv/geekapocalypse, where you can follow us, find out all the streaming we will be doing on said site. Also, if you want to know everything that we're absolutely up to, you can follow us on Twitter, which is @geek_apocalypse. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy being a geek.